Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
It's really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
All right, gang. Weather Weekly is back. It is episode number 2. I am your humble host, meteorologist Marcus Bailey with Storm Track 8 Wish TV in Indianapolis on this first Tuesday that we're recording this in November. Yes, we're making the turn here. We're excited about it too. Starting to get a little bit more mid-fall like. Hope you had a great Halloween. Hope you're having a great week as well. We're excited about our first interview here, our first guest, and naturally we had to get my friend on here, also my boss, but we do have a great working relationship, and I certainly enjoy working with Chief Meteorologist Ashley Brown from Wish TV. She'll join me on Weather Weekly. That's next. Welcome back to Weather Weekly. My very first guest that I'm very excited to have here on this weekly podcast is a good friend, a co-worker, and a very hardworking meteorologist. It is Ashley Brown. She has been in multiple television markets, including California, in Ohio, and now here in Indianapolis. And just recently, here in 2020, she won the Spectrum Awards in Indiana for Best Meteorologist in the city of Indianapolis. She is the Chief Meteorologist of Wish TV. Ashley Brown. Hi, Ash.
Hey, what a welcome.
Good to have you here.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to have you here. I was just thinking about this for this recording. We're doing this in early November. We're almost now coming up on your 2-year anniversary at Wish TV. I don't even know if you thought about that because you've got a lot going on right now in your life, which we'll talk about. But you've been here almost 2 years now.
It seems, it doesn't seem like 2 years. Time is just flying by. But yeah, you're right. I think in a few weeks it is 2 years here at the station. So, and what a lot of changes in 2 years, right?
It has been crazy at times, but it's been fun, right? I mean, so take me. I want to step back kind of early on in your career and kind of like how you got started. But I do want to start with the whole aspect of you being a chief, and I love your story because you are a local kid, and this was something that you wanted for a long time. Not only be the meteorologist in Indianapolis, but be the chief. What has this whole thing been like for you over the last 2 years?
I mean, every meteorologist wants to come home, right? That's kind of the goal. I think when you're in this business, the goal is always kind of to make it home for most people. So for me, coming home was a win, but coming home as chief of the Wish, even better, right? It was just kind of like, things kind of aligned perfectly in this situation. So I was very excited to come home to this job, and it's been everything that I thought it would be and more.
So you started, you went to North Central High School. You're like me, you went to Ball State and got your meteorology degree there. I want to go back earlier than that, though. What got you interested in being a meteorologist?
You know what? It was sometimes you don't know that you're interested, but you're interested. Like you don't know what to call it.
Right.
So, when I was a kid, it was funny. I remember taking, remember those little Polaroid cameras where they were stickers?
Yes.
And so I would take those cameras and I would take pictures of clouds, and then I would use like the stickers and I would stick them places. That was kind of my thing. I would just walk around sticking pictures of clouds everywhere because someone bought me this Polaroid camera that was super cool. And, I was always super into radio. So I would, pretend to be Casey Kasem and do the countdown every Saturday in my closet. Yeah, the closet was my radio booth.
I love that.
So I would sit in the closet and I would do the Casey Kasem countdown, but I would always interject a little weather. So,
That's great. I could see a little Ashley just sitting in her closet with her little. Now back then, now we're dating ourselves because you and I are about the same age, but I'm guessing that you were probably doing this on cassette tape.
Yeah, I would. I recorded on cassette tape, so you would hear me. Casey Kasem, with the countdown, I was going to be Casey, and I would say, "Oh, it's Coolio with Gangster's Paradise. It's paradise out there. Look at those clouds."
What a smooth transition! I love that. Now,
it was terrible.
Here's the important question with all that: do these tapes still exist?
No, and if they do, I'll make sure that they don't. They do not exist. With my terrible transitions, no, they're probably long gone.
They're
probably long gone.
See,
so that's how it all started, and then eventually, I think I was 16 or 17 when I sent a letter. This is back in the day, right? I sent a letter to Chris Wright. And Chris Wright actually brought me into the station, and I hung out with him for a day when I was in high school, and that was it. That was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do.
And you were hooked. That's fascinating. Now you kind of went down a similar path that I did, which why I love your story, because you mentioned your fascination with radio. I kind of did the same thing as you did when you were a kid, except for I did more like sports talk, which me, that probably doesn't surprise you.
Yes. No.
But
you in sports never surprise.
That's right. So, and same thing. I do it on a tape recorder and all that other fun stuff. But you ended up working in radio, and you and I have had these conversations before. You were working in radio down here in Indianapolis while you were attending school up in Muncie at Ball State. So how did that whole thing kind of come about with you jumping into the whole radio realm?
Actually, I was always taught to reach out to a person that does the job that you want to do. So I reached out to Guy Black when I was, my freshman year of college, and was like, hey, I want to do radio. I'm interested. And he also brought me in, but I became his intern at Radio 1 down the street there at 106.7 TLC.
Okay.
And I became his intern and just kind of worked my way up. And eventually, by the time I was a junior, I had my own radio show. So I would, come home, which was good and bad. It was great to have experience doing radio, but it wasn't so great because I didn't get a chance to do a lot of meteorology as far as, I know you did the news center stuff where you were able to be on air there at Ball State. Did you do that?
I did. Yeah, I did both. I did mainly TV, but I did some WCRD radio at times too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't able to get involved really with the school stuff. I think I did a little WCRD radio show on Thursdays or something. But I didn't get involved with News Center and get to the on-air TV stuff. I was really into radio at that point. So I missed out on a lot of TV stuff, but I did a lot of radio stuff. And I stayed in radio through college, grad school, and even after grad school. It was kind of my part-time gig when I was looking for my TV job.
Do you, because it's interesting, we all have kind of different paths. And it's interesting, I've talked to, over my career, people that are older than me that worked in radio when radio and TV were more interconnected than they are now. And
right.
a lot of times these people that were involved kind of in an almost 50-50 job when they first started off in the 70s, and they did a little bit of both. They said for meteorology, for weather specifically, that radio was such a good and useful tool to get you prepared to be a good on-air meteorologist. Did you find that really kind of helped you, and maybe even continues to help you several years now that you've been in the business?
Yeah, I think you learn how to speak the language of people. You learn to talk to people without having the pressure of being on camera. And I think once you learn to just speak to people instead of, because a lot of people when you start in this business, TV or radio, you talk at people, and you don't realize that you're talking at people, giving information, and then radio, there's some transition in there where it suddenly hits you that you have to talk to people and not at people, and I think radio taught me that and kind of take it through my career. And same with you. I think anybody who's done radio, you really learn quickly how to talk to people. And that's an excellent skill when you're television.
Well, and I think a lot of people, too, don't realize in our profession that we don't read a script and it's all it's all ad lib. You know, we have
Right.
the graphics to aid in our presentation, but it's, you know, everything is coming off the top of our head, and that's, for the most part, that's what you're doing in radio. It's strictly ad-libbing, whether you're introing a song or a promo for something, but you don't really have a script that you're following.
No, not at all. I mean, I think, you know, and that's why, you know, you and I talk about this a lot. That's why forecasting is so important. So, you know, you and I sit down with a pen and a paper, we gather our forecast and information, and that's the point to where it starts to stick, you know, whatever the forecast is. And once it sticks, it's like asking you and I what we did for the weekend. And if you ask us what we did for the weekend, we can really just talk about it because we did it. And so for you and I sitting down with pencil and paper doing a forecast, if you ask us what's the weather like, we can tell you about it because we spent an hour or two with a pen and paper figuring those things out.
So you go from Ball State and Radio 1, and you're looking for a job. Your first job is in, you can correct me if I'm wrong, California, right?
Yes, it was. So I was doing radio. I was in grad school, and I was sending out tapes. And yes, back then they were actually tapes.
Oh, I remember. Man, that was a pain. Oh,
It was, right? You had to get the big envelope.
oh my gosh, and so many
send it out,
stamps, and oh, it was awful.
Yeah, it was like $7 because it
Yes.
was such a heavy tape. And
Yes.
Yes. I started sending those out when I was in grad school, and I was actually a weather producer at that point at Fox 59, and I was doing radio. And so I made a tape at Fox, and I sent it off to, I think I sent it off to several places, and I ended up getting called back from California, and I just went out for the experience, for the interview, and I was like, you know what, I'll just go out for the interview for the experience. And right on my interview, they offered me the job, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm moving to California. So, yeah, that was my first gig.
So how did an Indiana girl feel about moving, and specifically one that wanted to stay in Indiana? How do you feel about moving out west at that? I mean, you're pretty young, you're single. How do you feel about that when you're moving out there?
I think I was really nervous initially about moving out there, you know, by yourself. You know, when you move in this business, you move by yourself. So moving out there by myself, I think I was initially I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have, you know, all that stuff together. So I think I was initially pretty, like, shocked and stressed. And then once I got there, you know, I absolutely loved the station. I loved the station management. And I ended up staying there for about 6 or 7 years. So I absolutely loved it. I would say in the very beginning, you know, the first 3 or 4 months, I was a terrible forecaster.
Well, I mean, that you would probably think. I think any of us would, even me after doing this almost 15 years. That's just such a different climate than what we've been accustomed to our entire life.
Totally. And so, you know, even us going to school for, you know, meteorology, you spend some time talking about it, but you don't really talk about it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I remember my third day on air, I'm doing a noon show, and the radar becomes active. And, you know, Palm Springs is a desert. It's kind of in the bottom of a fishbowl.
Right.
And I see rain on radar, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is good. I got rain. Couldn't wait to talk about the rain on radar. I go on with the noon show, and I talk about rain for like 10 minutes. My first 2 hits, I'm talking about rain. And then, like, everyone's looking at me like, what is she talking about? I go outside, it's Virga. No rain at all in the city. Clouds, it's just Virga.
Oh,
and that was my first experience of, if you're a meteorologist, you probably should look outside.
Which begs the question, in literally every television station I've worked at, none of us have windows to look outside.
No windows. No windows.
I mean, for people that don't know, I would say in a majority of television stations across the country, I'm sure there's probably a few exceptions, but not many, on-air meteorologists are usually officed in the studio. So you can't technically have windows. But again, the people that need to be able to see outside and what's going on, we don't really have easy access to it. So anyway, that's a funny story, though. Did you feel like you kind of got into a groove after a while, though, in learning the California climate?
Oh, totally. Totally. It didn't take long. I mean, once you start, like, I think once you live in a climate, meteorologists are not, once you live there for a while, you start realizing the weather cycles, you know, what summer is like, what fall is like, what spring is like. And once you get that down, you pretty much know what to expect. And you know how, now I know rain in California, it's not necessarily rain.
Right? That's true. Did it seem like, especially from you coming from the Midwest, where we have 4 distinct seasons. You go to California, you're in kind of a desert area. Did you find yourself bored at times when you were doing forecasting, or was that something you actually kind of still enjoyed?
You know what? I enjoyed it because it was different. I would say there are 4 seasons, but they're 4 very different seasons.
Okay.
In Southern California in the spring is really like a windy season, so you get a lot of haboob, you get a lot of dust storms. So spring is really windy. For us, in California, when you go into like summer, you're talking about extreme heat, 125, 126 in the summer, 90 at night, no break. When you go into winter, that would be the wet season when we actually would get some rain. So it would take us to winter to get a little rain. And although Palm Springs only average about 4 inches a year, that was kind of the wet season. But I did miss in Indianapolis or in Indiana seeing the leaves change colors and actually seeing some snow and actually seeing that. But I missed winter a little bit, and then I came back here to winter, and I realized that I didn't really as much as I thought I did.
So here's the question I have. 135-degree temperature. When people say, but it's a dry heat, does that really matter at that point?
It kind of does.
Does it really?
I mean, it's still incredibly uncomfortable.
Right.
And the dry heat is very... I would say it's still hot, but it is not as uncomfortable as humidity.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
I'm trying to think.
Humidity
Go ahead.
is the worst.
Yeah. And here's what I'm trying to think, too. 135 in the afternoon or 90 degrees while I'm trying to sleep. Which one is more miserable? Because I'm thinking like...
Oh, the night.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, the nights in the 90s were terrible because there's no relief. Like, it isn't like I can open up a window.
Right.
Like, your air conditioner works all day long.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there didn't even use, like, central air. They use evaporative coolers.
Oh.
And exactly. So imagine trying to use an evaporative cooler,
Man.
to cool your whole house down.
I'm never going to complain about 98-degree heat again. That sounds awful. So you were there for 6 years.
Yes.
Next opportunity then was back here. Is that correct?
Yep, I came back here and did a morning gig for about 6-7 years in mornings, and I love mornings. I know you work mornings too, didn't you?
I did. I've been kind of all over the place, but I initially, when I was in Peoria before I came here, I did work for a year in mornings. And it's funny you mentioned that. I mentioned to my wife, just we were talking about the past, and I said, when I look back on like my happiest time in Peoria, and I was honored to be the chief there for 5 years, but the happiest time I look back on was the morning because it was loose, it was relaxed. You can have a little more fun in the mornings, whereas, and this, you're the chief, as the chief, the evening show, not just you, but the entire show is just a lot more straight lace and to the point and let's get moving and that kind of thing. Whereas in mornings, you get to play around a little bit. You get to have some fun. You can ad lib a little more. And I think that's kind of the thing I enjoy about it.
Yeah, and also it's very rare to have severe weather in the morning.
That's true.
So
that's true.
You're not really tracking any strong storms. And, may have a stormy morning or two. And what I really loved about mornings is being done with work very early and
That's
being
right.
very productive.
Yep.
I feel like when you work the night shift, you just kind of sit around the house and you wait for the night shift to come.
It is. Well, yes, it's 2 completely different lifestyles.
It is.
And the hard thing too, and I'm sure you know this, is it's very hard to wind down after the evening show. And
yes.
Me being a parent now and you soon being in that role, having to get the kids ready for school the next, they don't care that I didn't get home until 12:30 when I'm filling in for you because they still have to get ready for school at 6 a.m. That makes it a little more difficult. You're a little more sleep deprived, and you have to force yourself to go to bed. That was always the hard thing for me because I was a night owl when I worked your shift. I'd be up till around 2 or 3 in the morning, no sweat, because I could sleep in till around 9. So, yeah,
Right.
it's just completely different lifestyles.
It is. The mornings is very, I feel like it's very quick and easy. You go through all the shows, you do all your forecasts, you have a little fun. But then the night show, it's hard to change the tone when, especially these days in news, when so much negativity is happening and so many bad things. It's hard to change the tone and be super positive.
Right.
It
is.
Weather because, for instance, we're looking at a nice warm up here. But, to get excited about that, I'm super excited about the warm up.
Right.
But when you talk about it at night, it's like it comes after a lot of gloom and doom, and you're like, oh, but guess what? The weather's going to be fantastic. You kind of feel a little out of place.
It always makes me laugh because it seems like the common transition is, all right, let's take a turn here. It's like we go from doom and gloom. Let's take a turn. All right, Ashley, it was a great day. Really nice. And you're just like, what did I just listen to? Yeah. Right. I hear you. So you spent some mornings here, then you moved on briefly to Cincinnati, and then you came back here. So I guess I didn't ask when you were in California, what shift, and I don't think I've ever asked you this before, what shift did you work in California?
I work mornings in California.
Okay, so you've been, outside of this, primarily, you've done mornings your entire career, basically.
Yep, this is my first evening meteorologist job. I've never done evenings until now.
So what do you, I know you love mornings. What do you think about the evenings now that you're doing it more, like you're obviously doing it on a regular basis now? Do you feel like you've adjusted more? Because I'll put this as an example. And it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. In the morning, I felt like you could always be more loose, right? You could be more...
Right.
I mean, you're still conversational in the evening, but I feel like you're a little more open to joke around about things, ad-lib, carrying over from a story that may have been funny right before you came on. Has that been like a weird adjustment for you? Because at least I found going to evenings, like I said, you have to be a little more straight-laced, down to the point, your times are tight, all that kind of stuff.
I try to work in still a little, fun into it, but there are times where that fun has to go. For instance, I like doing weather quizzes,
right?
And I'll quiz the anchors on. But there are some times to where right before the weather quiz, a triple homicide might come up or something,
right?
And then I'm like, oh nope, can't do it,
right?
You gotta kill the fun. But I think I've gotten used to it now, the evening shift and what comes with it. I just think it's one of those things like over time you just kind of meet the room where it is.
Sure. It's
kind of like, okay, if things are super serious, I can't really start out with the weather quiz and fun and bubbly things. I'll just do it in the next segment. Mm-hmm. And so you just kind of adjust and try to fit it in where you can, because you and I, we both are the same. We love weather. So like, you love weather stats, you love weather stuff like that, that makes us geek out.
Right.
So to have a forecast, so I can't include that. It's just like, well, this is what I've been working on. It's like a little kid that, you've been working on a picture for mom and dad, and you drew this picture and you can't wait to show mom and dad.
Right.
That's how we are with our weather stats. Like, you find a really good weather stat and you're like, oh, I can't wait to share it with everyone.
That's the worst thing. The worst thing that ever happens is if I spent literally 2 hours on this really fancy graphic and then the producers get in my ear and said, I got to cut your weather by 30 seconds.
Right.
Right.
It's like, I just wanted to show mom and dad my drawing.
Right. That's
and now they can't see it.
I worked really hard on this, Yeah, no, I get it. That's funny. All right. So I got an interesting question for you. Again, this is something that I've never asked you before. In your years, and this could be any market, California, here in Indiana, or in Ohio, while you're on air specifically, craziest weather moment that you like when you look back at the end of your career, you're gonna be like, wow, that day was crazy.
Craziest weather moment was probably standing out in my first haboob. Sand blowing everywhere, and I had no clue that like sand slapping you in the face actually stings.
Oh yeah.
and I'm actually, I'm really short. I'm only 5'1", 5'2".
Right.
So standing out in it and trying to ground yourself, and I think back then I was maybe 110 pounds, like nothing, trying to ground yourself in wind and sand, probably the most difficult when I look back, the most hilarious weather day ever, because like all you could see is me like, I tried, because they told me to make sure I hunker down. So my goal to do this was like to spread to plant myself, to spread my legs so I could plant myself and do my live shot. And as I went through this live shot, minute by minute, I was just doing the split. Like it just lower and lower into the split and sinking. And I can't do the split. So it was incredibly scary to think what was about to happen here. But yeah, so
on live television.
All on live television. My first haboob and trying to explain what's happening here. And, it was definitely, I look back, I thought I was miserable. Now I think it's hilarious. It's just like, what were you doing, kids?
Did the station have any like haboob gear for reporters to like go out in, like masks or anything, or did you just went out and you were just going to kind of have to just bear it?
No, you just the same we would do in rain. We just put the rain jacket up, put the hood up on the jacket and brace yourself. And yeah, it's not fun.
I can imagine. Yeah.
It's very painful, I will say. It hurts worse than you think it's going to hurt.
I mean, you would think they would at least give you like some sort of like workshop goggles or something. Because that's the first thing I'm thinking about. It's like, my eyes aren't going to be open during this entire live shot because I'm not going to get pelted in my eyeballs with sand for 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, they try to shield you. You get on the other side of the station vehicle.
Sure.
So basically, you try to shield the station vehicle. You try to shield yourself, but you can't really shield in that, and you can't see anything. So you can't even see your photographer or your camera because visibility goes down to nil in those storms. So you're basically just surrounded by nothing. It's a very scary moment, actually, when you think about it, because you can see absolutely nothing. You're in the middle of it,
right? And
you can't leave your live shot until this thing calms down because you can't, most people pull over on the highway.
Right.
So most people in a movie pull over on the highway and you wait till it's over with. So if you're out and, you just wait it out.
And people that haven't experienced that, I've been through one. I think it was in like western Texas or eastern New Mexico. And you're right. I mean, it is scary, but the thing you can kind of compare it to, but I think it may be even a little bit worse. Maybe because of the coloring, maybe because of the thickness of sand, but it's a lot like whiteout conditions in a snowstorm, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's the first thing I thought
I would make them comparable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say they're comparable because, the sand is all over the road.
Right.
So, it becomes a little slick as well, and you just have to just wait it out.
Yeah.
And,
That's fascinating. I'm sure, I can only imagine just seeing this Midwestern girl that had never really been through something like that being like, what is going on? That'd be a very unique situation. So that's fun.
Oh yeah, completely. I was completely fearful because, you just don't know what's going on. You don't know, you don't know what's in front of you. You don't know what's behind you. You don't know if some, stupid car is still trying to drive in it and, driving right at you. You just don't know what's going on. And for us being from the Midwest, whiteout conditions, snow for us, it's like, we got it.
Ashley Brown, Chief Meteorologist of Wish TV, joining us here and talking about kind of her career and her path. We're talking about some weather things and fun stuff like that. We just talked about her most unique weather phenomenon that she saw while she was live on air. Do you remember a time, Ash, that maybe even prior, growing up here, like there was a weather event that just absolutely, because you mentioned that you love taking cloud pictures. Was there a weather event, like a major weather event in your childhood or any time between your childhood and when you first got into TV that you just remember about and you were just fascinated by?
You know what? I can't really remember anything that really stuck out. I mean, I think I was fascinated with every thunderstorm, every snowstorm. I was always interested. But probably the one you remember is when you really start working, right? So when I was on air doing mornings when I was here the first time, I think, what was it, 2012, the drought
Yes.
And then I think the following year was the year we got like 57, 58 inches of snow, something ridiculous like that.
That winter was brutal.
I remember that winter like it was yesterday. That winter did not stop. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I remember being at work every day, like Monday through Sunday, like every single day there was a snow. And it was just like the winter that wouldn't quit. So I think that winter, I think we officially ended somewhere around 55, somewhere in the high 50s for snowfall. You know, we averaged, 25, 26?
Yeah,
so
we over doubled it, yes.
Yeah, it was the craziest winter ever, and I will never forget it because it felt like the snow was never going away because the snow was with us. Remember the snow melt took forever?
Yes, it did.
It felt like it was never, ever going away, and it was going to be snowing through spring.
Well, and it wasn't just the snow. It was so cold, too. I mean, it was like we get like 5 or 6 inches of snow. It was like a weekly thing, and then the day after, it was like 10 below. And it was just relentless every week. It was like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like the temperature 10 below. It was like wind chills of 33 below.
Yes,
it was ridiculous.
So you were sitting there.
That winter sticks out.
So you were sitting there and you're like, I left California for this? Come on. What's going on?
Yeah, I think that may have been my first or second year back in California. So I was just like,
oh my gosh.
What is this? What is happening? When you have a snow like that as a meteorologist, you start wondering, is this going to be our new normal?
Right.
Is our normal snow, is this going to be a thing now that every winter we're going to get hit this hard? It was so is this what we're doing now?
And you know what's funny?
And then you look at a winter like last winter, and we had 10 inches of snow last year. You're like, okay, we can do this.
It's funny because, and I'm going to be talking with Mike Ryan here in a couple weeks because he usually comes out with his annual winter forecast. And the main question I want to ask him is, because obviously you have these averages. You mentioned ours is in kind of that 25-inch range for annual snowfall. And obviously in 2012, we blew past that. But I think between then and now, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say, I think only out of that 8 years, basically, we've only really gotten close to average one time since that 2012 year. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it all kind of balances out. But now you're thinking about it, you said last year, 10 inches of snow. It's like, when's this next one coming, right? That's kind of my thought process. We're going to get hit again, right?
Absolutely. We have to.
Yeah.
But the funny part is, it's not looking like this year. I mean, this year is really looking comparable to last year. I mean, think about our temperature trend right now and how much rain we just received.
Right.
That was a ridiculous amount of rain in a short amount of time.
It was. And it's a La Nina year, but I mean, you get such a broad brush on a lot of these teleconnections and stuff. And then you try to compare them to other years, but there's always so many other mitigating factors and stuff. I mean, if you want to broad brush it, it can mean a wetter winter season, but wetter doesn't always mean snowier. It can if you get cold enough air, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I'm with you. At some point, sooner rather than later, we're going to be having an above average snowfall. It's got to happen at some point. It's just been a long time. Yeah.
We were waiting for it last year. We spent a lot of time last year thinking, oh no, is it going to happen in February? Is February going to be when we get hit really hard? And it never really happened. We had a lot of 2-3 inch snowfalls last year, which I don't mind. I like that kind of winter.
Those are good. Those aren't going to cancel the schools, but it's still enough that it makes it look pretty outside for at least a little bit.
Yeah, to where it's winter.
It's manageable.
It's okay, you got to give you a little snow for winter, but not too much.
Right. So I guess this will kind of go to, and then this may be an easy question for me to ask since we've already we know what season you don't like. What season what's your favorite season here in Indiana let's say specifically to forecast?
My favorite season is fall.
You like fall?
My favorite season in general is fall. Yeah, fall. I love to look at fall, but as far as forecasting, honestly, I like forecasting winter weather.
Do you really?
I like forecasting. Yeah, I do because for instance, thunderstorms. Sometimes they just kind of pop up on you and become severe. Snow, you can see it coming. You know it's coming. You have time to prepare. You can forecast. You can prepare max. You can, like snow, you see it coming. You know the ratio. You're good.
Right.
But I feel like thunderstorms, we could have every severe weather category, that we're looking out for, and then something else happens.
Well, no, and you're exactly right. I think that brings up a great point because, and just on a general scale, snow systems are huge, right? I mean, they can cover states, whereas thunderstorms may only be as big as a couple city blocks. So yeah, it goes to show how difficult it is to forecast, specifically severe weather. And why it makes this job extremely difficult. Not saying that winter weather is easy, because you and I and we could
it's not either.
Yeah,
no.
You could name 100 other meteorologists that have all gotten burned on winter weather forecasting. It happens every year to everybody, to the best of meteorologists. It's hard, but I see where you're coming from, because it's larger. It's a little bit easier to see coming. The one caveat in that, and it goes to the question I asked you earlier, because the most memorable weather system that I've ever experienced in my life, whether it was on air or off, was an ice storm that we had in 2005 in Muncie. It was my senior year of college. It knocked power out for like a month because it knocked all the power lines out.
I remember that.
Forecasting ice may be one of the hardest things I think I ever have to do, because there's so many things that have to kind of come together perfectly to have ice technically be an ice storm that's going to create power problems or traveling problems. That's what I think is probably the hardest.
Yeah, once you're trying to figure out wintry precipitation type, then that's really difficult.
All right, I don't want to
be really difficult.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much more of your time here. But one thing I did want to ask is, now that you've been in this profession now for several years, and if there's someone in college that's, if there's a young Ashley Brown in a meteorology class at Ball State University, what are you telling her? And she wants to be in television.
The same thing someone told me. Reach out to someone who does the job. Shadow them. Spend as much time with them as you possibly can, because it's the best way to figure out if you really want to do the job. Because I think a lot of times, you think, oh, this is what I want to do, and you get this idea of what it is. But until you actually see what it is on a day-to-day basis, I don't think you really understand or know if you want to do it. So I would say reach out, to me, to Marcus, to someone on our staff who does the job every day, and spend some time with them. And that's the best way to figure out if you really want to do it and if you're really going to like it.
Mm-hmm. It's good advice. Well, and look, too, you and I, you reached out to Chris Wright. It was Paul Poteet for me when I was about the same age, that both got us kind of the bug of wanting to get into TV. And part of that now, too, is it's like who you know in this business. It's such a it doesn't seem like it's a small business because it's nationwide, but there's really not that many of us. When you look at the whole grand scale of things, there's just not a lot, and there's a chance that you're going to have a coworker that worked with a previous coworker and all this other stuff. It's such a small business, and making connections like that is going to take you a long, long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, if you reach out to someone, most likely they can reach out to someone for you, which always helps. It's always good to get a foot in the door. All
right, Ash. I'm going to let you go because you got to get ready for work in a few hours. So I appreciate you spending some time with me.
All right. Always good chatting with you, Marcus.
All right. Thanks, Ashley.
And I'm glad I was your first podcast, and good luck with the podcast. I know it's going to be amazing.
I appreciate that. And hopefully you're available again. For anybody that cancels, I may call you up again.
No problem. I got nothing going on. Soon I'll be on maternity leave, just sitting around looking at a baby.
You're going to be kind of busy. Like, look, it's not vacation. I get that, right? You're going to be busy, but you might be home a little bit. So maybe we could talk.
I'll be around.
That's right.
As long as you can deal with a crying baby in the background of the podcast, I think it'll be fine.
Hey, you know what? Anything to drive up ratings, we're all about it. So I appreciate it.
Cool. All right.
All right. Thanks, Ash.
No problem.
My thanks to our guest here, Chief Meteorologist Ashley Brown from Wish TV, for joining us. My very first guest here on Weather Weekly. We have more to come. Next week, we'll be talking with Jason Mock. He's a farmer and owner of Constant Canopy up in Delaware County near Muncie, Indiana. He's a big weather nerd as well, so we're excited to talk to him about both farming and weather and how they're all kind of interconnected. Plus, he's got some neat ongoing things that are going on up around Delaware County as well. So make sure you tune in and join. This has been Weather Weekly from Wish TV. I'm meteorologist Marcus Bailey. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast and check out our new updates every week. You can also get more at wishtv.com when you follow Wish TV on Facebook and on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.